with you. Can you tell us about the origins of Chenin Africa?
Yeah, Chenin is an amazing variety, and obviously Chenin came in with Simon van der Stel in the early days, but basically Chenin has been planted most prolifically since after phylloxera, and it's become the most important variety in the South African wine industry. It occupies about 18% of our vineyards, and it is really going from strength to strength. It comes from the Loire Valley, the sort of mid-Loire, between the cities of Angers and Blois. And I mean, most of you guys, if you're interested in wine, you'll probably have heard of Vouvray and Sauvigny and Moulin Touché, which is a producer in the Coutu de Léon that makes beautiful old sweet Chenins. But yeah, the variety came to South Africa many years ago, and today it's a unique selling proposition for the South African wine industry in the international market, because there aren't many other parts of the world apart from the Loire where much Chenin is grown, although it is grown in South America and Australia and California. But South Africa is the true home of like regular drinking Chenin to go with food. And you know, because of its abundance, it wasn't always considered to be the most important variety in South Africa, but more recently, since the establishment of the Chenin Blanc Association in 2003, it has actually become an important variety locally as well. So it's a variety that performs very consistently in South Africa. It's very reliable. It's a versatile variety. It's made in different styles, from fresh and fruity to rich and ripe. Often the rich and ripe style is barrel aged, barrel fermented, and there are various techniques that one can use to make it more interesting, which Nathan will tell you about. But I think the climate here makes the variety a little bit more reliable than it is in the Loire Valley, where you get more extreme climate, and it's a variety that performs really well at different price points. It offers great value, and I think the South African consumer has taken it to heart.
Jeff, I just wanted to, I mean, you know where the oldest vineyards, Chenin vineyards, are planted in South Africa, and why did Villera decide to make it a focus varietal?
Villera decided to make it a focus varietal because you know, when we bought Villera, there was a reasonable amount of Chenin, and we also came with our vineyards from Blue Ridge, and we had old vine Chenin, which was offering great quality, and we saw the potential for Villera to work with this old vine Chenin Blanc and create some really interesting styles. And our barrel fermented is going to become an old vine project Chenin from 2020, and our regular Chenin is on average older than 35 years, but we do have a block that's younger, which makes it not possible to call it old vine project Chenin. But I think our decision to go for Chenin and to focus on it as a white variety has paid off. We've discovered that the Koelenhof-Bottleray area is one of the better terroirs for Chenin in South Africa. Plenty of the good Chenins come from this part of the Stellenbosch area, and this is now on the north side of Stellenbosch. And climate, soil-wise, I think we're in the right place. And the old vines help us get more intensity and more concentration.
Okay, so can you remember when we released our very first single varietal Chenin? Must have been late 90s.
Our first Valera Chenin was released in 1995, which was, up until that time we had Chenin, which we'd been using in blends. And that's one of the benefits of Chenin. It blends very nicely, and some of the modern blends in South Africa are being made from Chenin. But we used to use it in fruity blends, in more minerally, fresh style blends. But since '95, we've been bottling it as a varietal wine, and then we started making a richer style, which we initially called cellar door Chenin, and then it became barrel fermented Chenin. And that was in 2003 that we started with the barrel fermented version.
Okay, good. So I think now we're all getting thirsty, so I think we can pop Nathan on, and we're gonna taste our first Valera Chenin. This one.
Nathan.
Hello, Nathan.
Yes.
Nathan, we're going to first go through the Valera Chenin, which has to be one of the best value Chenins around, with a Grand Gold SA Wine Index, which means it's performed consistently well in various competitions over the years. And it retails for under 80 Rand a bottle. So I'd say, that's quite a bargain. But can you tell us more about when this wine was harvested?
According to my records, this wine, the grapes were harvested. For the Chenin Blanc, we pick in 2 stages. So we have an early picking, which is whole bunch pressed, and that, according to my records, was harvested on the 6th of February. And then the rest, which is the ripe portion, was picked on between the 20th and the 22nd of February, 2019. Not to be confused. That's it.
Okay, so then, great. So now the part where you come in, what happened to the grapes once they came to the cellar?
So, the early pick portion is whole bunch press, so that gets picked in bins and then chucked straight into the press, and then it gets pumped into a tank for overnight settling, cold settling, and then for about 12 hours, then into a tank for fermentation. For the Chenin, the riper portion goes through a little bit of skin, or is crushed and destemmed first, and then goes through a little bit of skin contact for about 4 hours. And then obviously the pressing, and then we pump it into a tank for overnight settling, also for about 12 hours. And then approximately half of it goes into older French oak barrels for fermentation, and then the rest into a tank. So, but what happens is we literally just pump the wine into a tank and then just hope and pray that the fermentation starts and you end up with wine in 2 weeks' time. So we don't add any yeast. That's what I'm trying to say. It's all spontaneous fermentation.
Okay, you see these youngsters coming to the cellar and they want everything to be natural. But that's a good thing. Siri says I'm not allowed to be frivolous, but Siri I don't know where Siri picked it up from. But anyway, Nathan, now we get down to the smell and the taste of this wine.
Yeah. So, on the nose, obviously this is a fresh and fruity, cheerful type of wine. On the nose, you'll find some pears, some stone fruits, a little bit of pineapple, some honey flavors as well, citrus, quince. Am I saying that properly? Quince. I normally just say
Quince.
Quince. Is that how you say it? Quince or quince? Quince. Okay. And obviously the taste, the fruity flavors follows through on the palate, and obviously with that slightly mineral core and acidity, giving a bit of a backbone. Good freshness.
Okay, good. So I think, we've come to know that you're a bit of a hedonist. And during lockdown, you've been pairing your wines to music, while Jeff's been pairing his to golf clubs or some silly stuff like that. But, if you had to choose something to pair this wine with, what would it be?
Okay, first of all, in that video, I stated that to a certain extent I'm a bit of a hedonist, so bear that in mind. So obviously I don't have the money to buy a Lamborghini or a super yacht to travel the world. And even if I did have a super yacht, I mean, eventually I'd have to go into the water and swim, which I can't do. So,
saying we don't pay you enough, Nathan.
But yeah, I need a raise. But anyway, pairing wine with music, something such as music, is a deeply personal thing. So you can, there's obviously a lot of new songs out there to pair wines with. A song that I paired this wine with initially is a song done by ELO, Mr. Blue Sky. So I'm assuming you want me to sing the first line. Sun is shining in the sky, there ain't no cloud in sight, stop raining. Anyway, that's the last singing for the day. But yeah, it's a happy and cheerful song, and it's exactly what this wine represents. But I've also thought of, it was during harvest, it was on a Sunday afternoon. Me and my wife, we like to play around with Mexican food. Both of us actually likes Mexican food. And well, I didn't play around, she makes it. I'm not much of a cook. But we made a black bean chili bowl. And we had some of the Chenin, we had Sauvignon as well, to be fair. But we had some of that Chenin that day. And to put us in a Mexican setting, we put on some Latin music, Latin jazz and blues music. And on came a song by Ray Barretto called Indestructible. Give that a listen. I think it's on YouTube. But yeah, once that song came on with the chili bowl and the setting, I just lost my mind. So.
Great. So Jeff, do you have anything to add? Something about the vintage or what, golf clubs or?
Yeah, the 2019 vintage was the first sort of decent vintage after about 4 years of drought. And the winter prior, we'd had better rainfall, and we got back to slightly less than normal yields, but at least half decent yields. But the summer was very good, and we had nice warm weather with good ripening conditions. And the big thing was that 2019 was a very healthy vintage. And that meant that we had very little botrytis, because as most of you who love Chenin know, you'll be aware that it is prone to a bit of noble rot or botrytis cinerea, which is something that can contribute to the flavor concentration of Chenin. But 2019 was super healthy, so there was not much in the way of botrytis involved. And in a way, we quite like to work with really clean grapes, because we know what we've got. With botrytis, sometimes you can have the nasty rot, which is something that can bring a little bit of VA into the mix. And normally you have to sort that out, which is difficult. But yeah, 2019 was a good, even ripening year. We got the grapes pretty ripe. I mean, Chenin, we always say, is picked at optimum ripeness, which is a higher level of ripeness than you would pick for Sauvignon. Our regular Chenin is around 13.5. Barrel fermented is about 14.5. And so the vintage was really good for Chenin in 2019.
Jeff, I remember in 1999 you were awarded the Chenin Winemaker of the Year, and you won an all-expenses paid trip to the Loire Valley. So, can you tell us what you learned while you were there?
Yeah, it was a great opportunity. I mean, obviously with our French connection through Jean-Louis Denoir on the sparkling wine side, I had been to France on a regular basis, but this was the first time that I'd been offered a trip to the Loire. And it was for two people, so I took Anton Small, who was our winemaker at the time. And but needless to say, we actually got picked up at the airport by Jean-Louis and went to Champagne, where we blew quite a lot of the spending money. But Jean-Louis then took us into the Loire and arranged all the visits and appointments. And he responded with a Michelin Guide restaurant, because I had taken him to one in the Champagne area. And so we had a very hedonistic time in the Loire Valley. Those who might have been there would know that it's the Garden of France, and it's the home of Chenin, but also Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc. And it's a beautiful part of the world. And, you know, there are plenty of chateaus and great restaurants in the area. And of course, you do discover that Chenin goes really well with food. And the one thing that was reinforced for me when I was in the Loire Valley was that Chenin makes great sweet wine, Noble Late Harvest. And in fact, most of the great Loire wines are Noble Lates. It's only really in the Savennier where you get dry Chenin. Some of the Vouvrays are quite dry, but most of them are Moulot, which is sweeter. And most of the really great ones are sweet or Noble Late Harvest. So, you know, we were inspired on that trip to make a Noble Late Harvest from Chenin. And we felt at the time that possibly Chenin reaches perfection as a Noble Late. And so in the year 2000, we made our first Noble Late Harvest from Chenin Blanc. And we made it to consistently in years where we had botrytis, which meant that, you know, every sort of third year. And we basically produced a barrel fermented Noble Late Harvest from Chenin called Inspiration. And some of you will remember that wine. We still have some in stock. And this comes from our Vinatec. It's a 2010 Noble Late Harvest from Chenin. And you can see the B on the label that designates nectar or honey. The wine tastes like honey, but we talk about it being nectar. And yeah, so that was quite a special little trip to France. Kathy?
Okay, so then I just wanted to ask Nathan about the duck vein that he made.
Hello again.
Hello, Nathan. So Nathan, just tell us a bit about duck vein, why you made it, when your first release was, all sold out.
Okay, so first of all, this is the duck vein 2017. I think the vintage is on the side. So the 2017 was our first vintage of duck vein. So just to add on to the versatility of Chenin Blanc, my first vintage was in 2013, not at Valera, obviously. But the winery that I worked at, their focus point was also Chenin Blanc, and they had so many different styles. I mean, there was tank fermented, there was barrel fermented. They also had a Noble Late Harvest made from Chenin. They also had an MCC as well. And then when I joined the Valera team, I said, it's pretty much the same here, because we also had a Noble Late Harvest. We had everything there, with the exception of an MCC. And then 2016, Valera sent me to Domaine Grieux, which is the farm in France. And I went to this winery next to the village where Domaine Grieux is, called Maury. And the name of the winery, the name of the town is Maury. The name of the winery is Mossamil. And they had these demijohn, these glass jars on the lawn. And I kind of asked around what it is. And they said, no, it's wine. I was like, you just leave it up there in the open. And he said, yes. And how long will you leave it? 12 months. So came back to South Africa. I pitched the idea to Jeff. He gave me the go-ahead, and I went for it. So what this is, it's a fortified Chenin Blanc. So to my knowledge, I don't think with this style of wine, I don't think anyone's ever used Chenin Blanc before. Under correction? No. So yeah, this is just to showcase the versatility of Chenin Blanc again, and yeah. So it stays on the roof. That's where the name comes in. Dakbeen, roof wine. Those of you that don't understand Afrikaans. So it stays on the roof for about 12 months, and then in barrel for about 8 months as well. And then we also, just to add on, 2019 we made a I don't want to say Jura, but we made like a Vin Jaune style wine as well. So it's Chenin Blanc is incredibly versatile. So we have one barrel of those. So far, so good. So those of you that enjoys Vin Jaune or Jura wines, if you're willing to wait for 4 years, it's a barrel for us to sell to.
Okay, Nathan, your first vintage was 2017, of which there were like 600 bottles, and they sold very quickly. And then you skipped the vintage, didn't you? Or did you make it 2018?
No. We didn't make it 2018. The thing is, the maturation period of this wine is quite long. So it took about 10 years up until bottling. We weren't quite sure what to expect from the wine itself and from the public. So we made a collective decision not to produce a 2018. But we did in 2019. But you
have done it, yeah. So when can people buy the 2019? Next year?
Well, it's all dependent on taste. So we taste as much as we can to see how the wine develops. But I'd say we'll probably release that sometime next year, March or April. So.
Okay, great. Now I just have one more, before you taste the barrel fermented, I just have one more question to ask Jeff.
Okay.
I was going to ask, Zander Greer is our other winemaker, and Zander is the nephew of Jeff and myself, and he joined us as a winemaker after Nathan. I think Nathan joined in 2016, Zander joined us in 2018, and in the same year he decided that we had to join the Old Vine Project. Jeff, you touched on the Old Vine Project, but can you just tell us, why we joined it, and what do you think it adds to our story?
Yeah, the Old Vine Project is a fantastic project that kicked off in about 2016 in South Africa. A lady by the name of Rosa Kruger basically decided that Old Chenin Blanc is a massive South African heritage, and we need to look after it and nurture it. It's not only Chenin, all old vines, but Chenin in particular, because most of the old vineyards in South Africa are Chenin Blanc vineyards, and we in our vineyard we have quite a lot of old vine blocks, and we already have 2 Old Vine Project wines. One is a Gamay Noir. We have one of the oldest blocks of Gamay and one of the few blocks of Gamay in South Africa. We make an Old Vine Project Gamay Noir called Standalone Gamay. And then we have a barrel fermented Sauvignon Blanc, an old bush vine vineyard, which is also now come into the Old Vine Project fold. But the Old Vine Project is basically a project to find the best quality old vine blocks and make sure that value is added and these blocks then stay in the ground. Because you must remember, as the vines get older, the yields come down, the concentration goes up. But if the value is not there, there's no incentive for the farmer to keep the vineyard in the ground. So you've got to get people to understand the concentration and extra value involved in old vine wines, and we felt this is a really worthy project to be part of, and so we joined it. We pay an annual fee, and you get issued with stickers for your old vine blocks. But these blocks and the wines they produce have to be approved, and the quality has to be really good. And from 2020, our barrel fermented Chenin joins our old vine project range. So this year we'll be releasing that, and so we'll have 3 old vine project wines in our range. And yeah, there's a fee that covers the marketing and promotion of this project, and the marketing and promotion helps to promote the idea of older vines creating better quality, and it's a cycle that ends up keeping the best blocks in the ground and make sure that that farmers do their best to produce the best quality wines they can from those older blocks. I think that about covers the old vine project.
Yeah, to qualify for that old vine status, your vines need to be a minimum of 35 years old. And I just wanted to add to that we've been working with some vineyard specialists in Italy for the last 6 years. We've been training our pruning team to extend the life of our vineyards so that they will reach a ripe age of 50 and still produce really quality fruit, but obviously the yield goes down quite a lot. So we're going to have a lot of old vine wines for quite some time to come before we have to start replacing them. But that's a whole another debate on its own. I think now we can open up and let everyone in, so that we can see.
Kathy, just before you move on, I can just mention that apart from the Old Vine Project, there's the Chenin Blanc Association, which I also touched on. But it's an organization that also started in 2003, promoting Chenin Blanc generally. But they run a top 10 competition, and they run a drink Chenin competition and an annual Chenin Blanc festival and so on. But there's a massive amount of work that goes into promoting the Chenin category, and this is paying off because people are starting to appreciate Chenin, and the farmers, the wine producers, are starting to realize that there's a real benefit in growing Chenin and making quality Chenin, and it's a cycle that is resulting in us being able to provide consumers with great Chenin Blanc.
Nathan, can you start by telling us, what happened in the vineyard with the barrel fermented?
So in the vineyard, in the vineyard, so the grapes came in early in the morning. So for all of our white wines, we tried to pick the grapes as early as possible with the coolest temperatures, just to preserve freshness in the form of acidity and obviously fruitier flavors. And 2019 vintage, the acidity was actually quite high, which is favorable for us. Since I've been here, I don't know if Jeff might probably have different experience, but since I've been here, it's the highest acid we've received Chenin Blanc in. Yeah.
Okay, Nathan, but I just wanted to know, what I meant was, I know that we use a number of different blocks on the Chenin. Obviously, they all are, 2020, they were all a minimum of 35 years old, but some are careless, aren't they? And some are bush, or?
Yeah, look, for the barrel fermented Chenin, we use 3 different vineyard blocks. So obviously we pick in different stages as well. So the one is Trellis, and the other one, our Montpellier block, which is our best block, or our best performing block. And we also have an old bushvine block as well. And we also have an early pig portion. So the Montpellier block gives us quite a bit of botrytis, which Jeff mentioned earlier. And the old vine, bushvine block gives us quite a bit of freshness with some minerality as well.
Okay, now I know that the barrel fermented Chenin is a particular favorite of yours. If you ever have to do a video, you choose that one. So, what happens with this in the cellar? I know there's obviously a lot of barrel and de-stirring and whatever. Can you enlighten us?
Yeah, so obviously this is a very complex wine. Show it. The very complex wine. So a complex wine comes through a complex production. So we it's basically in terms of wine production, it's 2 stages. So we have a whole bunch portion, which is approximately 50% of the total blend, and then we also have a skin fermented portion. So the whole bunch goes straight into the press. Pressed, all the free run juice gets pumped into a tank, and then overnight settling, and then into barrel, and wait for the fermentation to start. With the skin contact, obviously we try to keep it as reductive as possible, and then it goes through about 4-hour skin contact, and then it also goes into barrel. So we have a range of different barrels from new to old. I think the oldest barrels we use is probably about 10 years old. And then we also delay sulfuring some of the barrels to allow it to go through to allow it to go through malolactic fermentation, and that also adds to the complexity. And then obviously there's the yeast stirring on a weekly basis for the first 2 months of maturation, and it stays in barrel for about 8 months. I also wanted to mention we also have different size barrels. So we have 300 liter barrels, 400 liter barrels, and 225 liter barrels, and all of these sizes gives a different gives you different types of flavors. So like for instance the 400 liter new barrels gives you a much more subtler oak flavor than 225, a smaller, more compact barrel. Just wanted to add that.
No, good to know. Now you just need to tell us this smells pretty good to me. So yeah. What do you smell and taste on this one?
So obviously this is a much bigger, broader and more complex one than our the Chenin we've just tasted. So yeah, you get some pineapple, some honey fruit flavors, some stone fruits. Obvious oak spice playing a supporting role, and the palate is surprisingly lean and fresh. You know, on the front palate, on the front palate, you get an oak sweetness, and then the finish is a nice fresh citrus flavors.
Good. All right, so do we want to hear your music pairing? Got to be something real.
Unfortunately for you, the song that I paired with this wine initially doesn't have any words. It's an instrumental song, so there's no singing involved yet. But the song I chose was done by Bra Yumas, the late Bra Yumas Killer. I'm sure most of you should know it. It's called Grazing in the Grass. Wonderful song, amazing. The first time I heard it was, I think I was still in primary school. My father introduced it to me. My father's a big jazz fan. But with this is, like you mentioned earlier, this is my favorite wine out of the lot. And the one thing I struggle with is it always finishes a bit too early. So if I think back on songs that finishes too early, I mean, there's a whole list of songs, but a few songs that I can think of is Into the Mystic by Van Morrison comes to mind. Little Wing by Jimi Hendrix, definitely, that's a go. And less mainstream song is If You Want Me to Stay by Sly and the Family Stone. I don't know if you guys know it, but amazing song. So yeah, give that a go.
Good choices, Nathan. Good choices.
Good, yeah.
There we go.
Perfect.
So, Miguel, I really, you very involved in the hotel and restaurant business, and I know that's severely affected at the moment. I'm just curious to know, have you seen a change over how Chenin has been accepted? And I see you were very active in the hashtag Drink Chenin campaign on the 20th of June, which is great. You always get involved. But just from a restaurant and a hotelier's point of view, how is it out there for Chenin and
Kathy and Jeff and Delia and Nathan, first of all, thanks for having me on as part of the discussion. And yes, it is a difficult time for us in the hospitality industry, but fortunately we have Chenin Blanc to talk about tonight. And what we've seen in recent years, there has been an interest from the consumer to embrace and to take on Chenin Blanc. So obviously there is a diversity of white wine style out there, and we all know what are the best-selling white wine and the variety. However, what we've seen is the consumer base are changing fast, and there is a sense of adventurism out there. They want to taste, they want to learn, and the beauty of Chenin Blanc is in its diversity of style. From the burn dry to delicious off dry, touch of botrytis to noble late. The variety caters for every palate. And I believe that the more the consumer will be exposed and be able to taste the diversity of Chenin Blanc there, it can only benefit the producers. And I will echo what Jeff mentioned earlier. Kudos and credit must go to the Chenin Blanc Association with regards to what has been done in recent years. It certainly has awakened interest in the variety and the noise, the subtle noise, positive noise made by the association have made the consumer aware that there are other varieties, and Chenin Blanc is one of them to consider when they are going out to have with their meal, either at the beginning of the dinner or just sit out there on a sundowner and enjoy a glass of white wine. Every aspect, either dry or sparkling, MCC, you name it. And it's very good to see those kind of benefit changes or positive changes happening.
Sorry, it's great to have your perspective, Miguel. Thanks, we appreciate that. I think there's someone else. Are there any questions, Delia, that you, yeah?
Yes, Kathy, a couple of the questions you've had in the Q&A have been answered. The one that came through that I thought you could perhaps elaborate a little bit on was from Garrett Slattery. He just wanted to know, how old do you think the old vines can get while remaining viable? Now, you touched on it with regards to what Valera is doing because of the techniques learned by your Italian viticulturists and the pruning techniques. But is that something that you foresee can happen with the Valera Chenin Blanc vines reaching 50 years old and still producing good Chenin? Or is that more of a anticipation?
I should perhaps let Jeff answer, but Jeff, are you? But for me, I mean, basically, in France, we've got vineyards that are 100 years old. It's just the yield goes down a lot. So you have to start charging quite a lot more. So, Jeff, yeah, the age that vines can reach and the yield surely comes down quite a lot. And, is that viable? You have to start charging 400 Rand a bottle. So where's the ceiling?
Yeah, so that is part of it. The yield does come down, and obviously when the yield comes down, theoretically the price should go up. But as we have mentioned, there are pruning systems and techniques on the viticultural side that will allow us to extend the life of the vineyard in terms of producing a better yield than used to be possible in the past. I mean, when we started in the wine business in '83 here at Valera, the conventional wisdom was that you replaced your vineyard every 25 years. So you replaced like 5% a year and that was it. But because people are appreciating the quality of older vines and so on, it does justify keeping some of your vineyard in the ground for a lot longer. One also has to consider the effect of global warming and the possibility that South Africa, or at least the Western Cape, will be drought-stricken more regularly. I think old vines actually do well in drought because the roots are deeper and they get that water from deep down. And I think an old vine can theoretically produce better quality in a drought year than an irrigated vine. So that's also something to keep in mind. But yeah, I mean, it's the economic ratio or the balance between price and volume is going to be a factor when you're talking about the old vines. So.
Yes, we will be in touch with you all by email. So whatever bottles you have open tonight, we'll replace them. And I think, yeah, thanks so much for joining our first virtual tasting. We'll do more. We have to do one on Cap Tassi. And yeah, I think that's it for us, unless anyone has any more questions.
No, nothing on the Q&A, Kathy. Yes, thanks very much for joining us, and yeah, we hope you enjoyed it, and you're going to be toast. Thank you very much, Rob. You're going to be enjoying your Chenin with a lovely meal.
Say cheers to Chenin.
Cheers, Chenin.
Cheers, Chenin. There we go.
Brilliant webinar.